Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's ceremony. I am Staff Sergeant Nathaniel Smith, and I will be your MC for today's ceremony. In recognition of Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley's retirement and in keeping with one of the oldest traditions in military service, the men and women of the United States Air Force pay special tribute to Technical Sergeant Muffley, who is closing out an honorable career with 20 years, 4 months, and 7 days of dedicated service to his country and the United States Air Force. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given cues to stand and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during the singing of the national anthem, military members should stand at attention, and it is encouraged that civilians place their right hand over their heart. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the Operations Officer of the 90th Missile Security Operations Support Squadron, Captain Joshua Bierbauer. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by First Lieutenant Stephanie Contreras and the invocation by Chaplain McGlaston.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I invite you to join me for a moment of prayer. Holy God, thank you that we are able to gather today in celebration of Tech Sergeant Casey Muffley. After 20 years of serving in the Air Force, we thank you for this new opportunity, that he gets to go on and start new adventures. As a family, they get to do new things, go new places, maybe set down some roots, not have to move quite so often. I ask that you will just bless every opportunity that comes their way, that you will help them to find the right ones to accept, that you will help them to just continue to grow and serve their community in new ways. I ask that you bless Casey and his wife and their children as they go on to brand new things. We fortify the ties between them, that they will grow closer as a family, stronger in their relationships, that they will grow closer to extended family and to friends, that they will keep tied to all of the friends and found family that they have collected throughout this Air Force journey. Let their memories be good. Let their future be bright. In your holy name, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, First Lieutenant Contreras, for the beautiful rendition of our national anthem, and Chaplain for the inspirational invocation. We are honored to have in attendance today Technical Sergeant Muffley's wife, Tabitha, and their children, Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah. Last but certainly not least, we would like to welcome all commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, friends, and members of the Effie Warren Air Force Base team. To his family and friends who have traveled to be here today, Sergeant Muffley thanks you. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our presiding official, Captain Joshua Bierbauer.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so first I want to thank you, Sergeant Muffley, for asking me to be your presiding officer for your retirement ceremony today. Lieutenant Contreras, thank you for that wonderful rendition of the national anthem. And Chaplain, thank you so much for the invocation. Thank you to all commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, and all other leaders as we come together to celebrate the closing of a 20-plus year career for Tech Sergeant Muffley. And lastly, I want to thank you, Tabitha, Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah as we come together today to celebrate your husband and father for his service to his country. Tech Sergeant Muffley, finally looking at retirement. Long time coming, no? 20 years, 4 months, and 1 week, or as your wife said, 7 days, 24/7 for your career. Quite a long time and an even more intriguing career. Before even joining the military, Sergeant Muffley met his soulmate here at Tabitha in 2002. While they were attending Bora High School in Boise, Idaho, I had to ask him for the spelling of Bora High School. Never heard of that place. And then following that, Casey enlisted in the Air Force on February 24th, 2004. I may or may not have been 10 years old at the time. From Lackland, he went on to Minot Air Force Base, great place for a first assignment, I'm sure. Snagged a deployment out of there to Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. It was part of the last part of the last full 13-man team to deploy before Global Strike turned off large-scale deployments. And after being together for 6 years, Tabitha and Casey tied the knot on April 1st, 2008. Just like a defender to get married on April Fool's Day. Sounds about right. So I have a question. Is it a running joke for you guys for your marriage license? Yes, it is? Fantastic. I called them about that before I actually wrote the speech to make sure that was okay. So, while at Minot, Tabitha welcomed Ethan into the world in 2008. And shortly thereafter, Mercedes in 2010. And then, oh, you can do the same thing for you. You did that for Ethan. Oh, she's coming next. After spending 6.5 years at Minot, Sergeant Muffley moved on to Creech Air Force Base, also in 2010. There he was a certified instructor for integrated base defense before moving on to provide security for remote pilots. Then the Muffley family welcomed 2 more additions, with Madison and Elijah making their debuts in 2012 and 2017, respectively. But Global Strike wasn't done with you, was it?
No, sir.
Back to Nukes in 2019, and to Effie Warren, no less, and that's where I actually met Sergeant Muffley in 2022. So I remember the day I entered Alpha Flight's office. It was just after trip-in, so everyone's flying around and trying to get the taskers done before leaving for the 4-day weekend following trip-in. Going through and introducing myself, we all know no one was interested in being a new lieutenant. Everyone was more interested in getting home and doing whatever they need to and not meeting the new officer. Then I then saw Sergeant Muffley in the corner, calm and overseeing the scene unfold as the chaos continued. And I was the new guy and looked over and saw this man. And I thought to myself, well, that's probably the guy that I need to ask questions about the missile field, and I necessarily wasn't wrong. I asked quite a few questions on that day and all the days thereafter. So 3 weeks later, I was prepping for my first trip out, and Sergeant Muffley was in his semi-permanent position at MSC. I'm pretty sure that they need a reserve seat or a plaque or something along those lines for you and Tech Sergeant Klink up there at MSC to honor the number of tours that you guys did up there. Too many phone calls to count about questions about the field and sites along with every random thing under the sun that I could think of. I always led each phone call with, hey, how are you doing? Followed by typically, good, sir. And then followed by, I have a question. I'm always full of questions. So I appreciate all the patience, knowledge, and advice through all the operations, especially when I called you about 2 years ago after getting the third team unstuck from the snow at about 03 in the morning and letting you know that no one else was driving that for the rest of the night, just because I was completely done that night. We then transitioned to MST and the walk, so and then the true fun began. I don't know why I messed up on that. All the late nights from flight translated to maintenance missions, convoys, and conversations galore with pretty much every agency on base for MST. Dixon, Captain, I appreciate the help on all of those as well. Over 2,000 missions in the last year and some change. And I still wouldn't want another tech sergeant to call for the ever evolving updates that we have with maintenance missions. And then lastly, Tabitha. Thank you for sharing your husband with us and sacrificing anniversaries and date nights and amongst so many other occasions for those late nights, long missions, and early morning phone calls. To Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah, thank you for sharing your dad with us for all the missed games, birthdays, and holidays. Now it is time for you to enjoy seeing your dad and husband much more often with the knowledge that there are no more deployments, PCS orders, we're going back to nukes, exercises, or any other short notice taskers of me calling you and, hey, I got something else. So, Sergeant Muffley, I have one more question for you. You ready to get this show on the road?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Captain Bierbauer, Technical Sergeant Muffley. Please join Captain Bierbauer on stage for the medal presentation, retirement order, and pin presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we present the Air Force Commendation Medal to Technical Sergeant Muffley.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America has awarded the Air and Space Commendation Medal, 1st Oak Leaf Cluster, to Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley for meritorious service 29 July 2019 to 01 July 2024. Technical Sergeant Casey Muffley distinguished himself by meritorious service as Liaison Wing Operations Center, 90th Missile Security Forces Squadron, 90th Security Forces Group, 90th Missile Wing, Francis E. Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming. During this period, Sergeant Muffley was key in standing up the Wings Operations Center, synergizing maintenance planning operations to execute 846 missions across Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. Through his coordination, the Wing experienced a 75% increase in missions accomplished, benchmarking the work center alignment across the 20th Air Force. Additionally, Sergeant Muffley coordinated a 200 personnel force for the cryptographic system update. He postured teams across 50 sites, driving weapon systems upgrades for the first ever remote code change operation. Finally, in reposturing 32 nuclear launch facilities to combat-ready status, Sergeant Muffley integrated 7 squadrons to support 29 convoy movements across the region, proving critical to the squadron, earning the 2023 Best Large Security Forces Unit in the Air Force Global Strike Command. The distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant Muffley culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect credit upon himself and the United States Air Force.
Dude's shaking as well. Damn good job, Tom.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the reading of the retirement order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force Special Order Number Alpha Mike 112697. Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley, effective 30 June 2024. You are relieved from active duty 90th Missile Security Forces Squadron, Francis E. Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming. Retired effective 01 July 2024 per Air Force Instructions 363203 in the grade of Technical Sergeant by order of the Secretary of the Air Force.
Good job.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Captain Bierbauer will now present Technical Sergeant Muffley with a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States of America, which reads, I extend to you my personal gratitude and the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces helped protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long traditions of the finest military in the world, embody the American ideal of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride and to keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, Joseph R. Biden Jr., Commander-in-Chief. Technical Sergeant Muffley will now be presented with a certificate of retirement on behalf of the Air Force Chief of Staff and Johnny L. Galbert, Colonel, United States Air Force. The certificate reads as follows. Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents greetings, this is to certify that Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of July 2024, signed David W. Alvin, General, United States Air Force Chief of Staff, and Johnny L. Galbert, Colonel, United States Air Force. Technical Sergeant Muffley will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Their certificate reads as follows. Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Air Force. Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley, the achievements and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well deserved, but your selfless contributions will be sorely missed. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Given this first day of July 2024, signed David A. Flossie, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Now, we invite Technical Sergeant Muffley's wife, Tabitha, and their children to come forward to assist with our next presentation. A small but meaningful item, the retirement plan. there is one word that describes what this pin represents, that word might be sacrifice. This is what Technical Sergeant Muffley's family knows all too well. You have served your country well. Now it's time to make up those lost special moments with your family. Who more appropriate to do the honors? Tabitha, please pin your husband.
She took the words right out of my mouth.
I said yesterday to his forehead, but you know.
I'd like to ask Tabitha to remain on stage. Tabitha is being recognized for her significant contributions and sacrifices to the Air Force by supporting and encouraging her husband throughout his career. Captain Bierbauer will now present Tabitha with a certificate of recognition on behalf of the Air Force Chief of Staff and Johnny L. Galbert, Colonel, United States Air Force. The certificate reads, Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Air Force. In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Mrs. Tabitha Muffley for the commitment and numerous contributions that made such positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given this first day of July 2024, signed David W. Alvin, General, United States Air Force Chief of Staff, and Johnny L. Galbert, Colonel, United States Air Force. Mrs. Muffley will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. The certificate reads, Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. On behalf of all Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents this certificate of appreciation to Mrs. Tabitha Muffley. I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our nation. Signed, David A. Flossie, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. We would also like to Are
we good, Capri?
Yes.
Okay. That's great.
We would also like to recognize his children who have sacrificed many moves along Technical Sergeant Muffley's Air Force journey. Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah, will you please come forward and join your father and mother on stage? The certificate of appreciation reads, certification of appreciation on the occasion of the retirement of their father, Technical Sergeant Casey S. Muffley, from the 90th Missile Wing. Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah has earned grateful appreciation for their devoted service, their love, support, sacrifices, and understanding made possible their father's unwavering service and contributions to the United States Air Force. Signed, 90th Missile Security Forces Squadron Commander Major Brian J. Tuttle, and 90th Missile Security Forces Squadron Senior Enlisted Leader Chief Master Sergeant Alvin Johnson. Upon successful graduation from technical school, a defender earns and is issued a Security Forces badge. This badge represents the four authorities we have: detain, apprehend, report, and correct. Throughout our careers, we wear the badge with dignity and in accordance to written instructions. Upon completion of our tours, we turn our badge in. It is, after all, a controlled item, unless the badge is retired by the approval authority. With this in mind, Timothy A. Gerald, Deputy Director of Security Forces, issued the following statement. During his entire career, Technical Sergeant Muffley held allegiance to his country, devotion to duty, and personal integrity above all. He wore the badge of authority with dignity and restraint and promoted by example high standards of conduct, appearance, courtesy, and performance. He sought no favors because of his position. He performed his duties in a firm, courteous, and impartial manner, irrespective of a person's color, race, religion, national origin, or sex. Technical Sergeant Muffley gained the respect of his fellow airmen with whom he came in contact. As witnessed by the gathering of friends, relatives, and coworkers, this security police badge number 58083 is retired from the United States Air Force effective 1 July 2024, signed Timothy A. Gerald, Deputy Director of Security Forces. When a military member retires, the most popular gift is the member's shadow box. The history of the shadow box had its origins with the Navy back to the times of wooden ships. The shadow box served a dual purpose. It served as a perpetual reminder of the sailor's accomplishments, and it held that the retired sailor's shadow in check until they completely departed the ship, thereby ensuring a smooth and lucky transition into civilian life. This shadow box contains memorabilia and symbols of Technical Sergeant Muffley's 20-year career and service.
All right, Sergeant Muffley, this is your shadow box we got you from the MST section. Really appreciate your time in the walk and appreciate your time in the unit. Been a great asset to us, and we're sad to see you go, but happy to see you on a happier trail.
I appreciate that, sir.
I would like to invite any others who would like to present a gift to Technical Sergeant Muffley to please come forward.
So, Sergeant Muffley, on behalf of the squadron, we crafted this gift up for you. I think it was said throughout the declaration, you know, whenever we had to stand up to walk, you were like the first choice that came to mind to go do that. Your expertise, your multiple times of being in missile units, gave us the opportunity to utilize your experience and your knowledge based in an area that we really needed it. So definitely appreciate it. I think you kept us out of trouble several times. Definitely kept your leadership out of trouble. So on behalf of the squadron, here's the gift, and happy trails.
Well done. Retirement. Me and the family decided to get you this. Why appreciate
worked there knows that that's absolutely not true. It's all about people like Sergeant Muffley. And when I first got there, tried to figure out what's going on, what am I doing? He knew it all. And he's security forces background and all of that, but there's not one group on this base that you haven't touched and that you haven't influenced with your leadership and with your ability to make things happen. When I come up with some crazy idea, you're like, hey, we can do it, or we can't, and here's why, or here's what it would take to get there. It's usually your approach, which I really appreciate, and I know the wing appreciates it, and I'm honored to be the one that pushed you out, that finally said I've had enough after 20 years, 4 months, and 7 days. But I know that Tabitha and Ethan, Mercedes, Madison, and Elijah, you guys are gonna enjoy having your dad back, and we'll sure miss him. So with that, our shadow box has a patch from every squadron unit that you helped us wrangle in the walk. So.
Technical Sergeant Muffley will now be presented with our nation's flag as a part of the flag ceremony. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence. And blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that encircle the globe and on the thin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our Air Force nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us, for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Technical Sergeant Casey Muffley, United States Air Force, retired.
Thank you all for being here today. Whatever my career has been, it's been a lot to me. It's a lot to me and my family. For those of you who are here and watching virtually, that took time out of your busy schedules to be here. I'll start off by thanking the church for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem, Chaplain Glaston for that kind prayer. Let's give him another round of applause. Big thank you goes out to the Tech Sergeant Keanu over there and his retirement ceremony team for putting this all on and making it come together. When I was informed that you were putting this together for me, I was honored to have you do it.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Captain Bierbauer, for presiding and all the kind words and all the memories.
Anytime, anyway.
And thank you for everything you did while as a flight commander, whether it was on Alpha Flight or in MSTs. Cool. Thank you to the men and women of the 90th Missile Security Forces Squadron for coming out and representing. It's been my home for the last 5 years, and I could have been anywhere else, but I was there and I enjoyed my time. Special thank you goes out to the command team from 90th Biggs, Major Tuttle, Chief Johnson, Ezra Moore. Thank you for putting that trust in me at the Wing Operations Center and leading me up there and taking charge. Lieutenant Carmichael, Master Sergeant Teresi, I want to give you guys a big shout out and thank you. Hopefully I didn't overwork your teams too much out there in the field, but I tried my best up to get you guys covered down. Colonel Bazo, Colonel Nelson, appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to be here. Chief Master Sergeant Clark, Mrs. Clark, I appreciate you guys coming all the way up here to honor me on this day. We'll get back to you here in a bit. To all my friends, peers, mentors, supervisors, peers, and everyone else who came out of this union, thank you. Oh, I did forget somebody. Lieutenant Colonel Ditson, my walk family that's here, appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with me in the office, all the chaos that I ensued on you.
Always.
I appreciate it.
To my parents who couldn't be here today but are here virtually, thank you for raising me the way you did. I would have not been able to see to complete the 20 years of service I've been able to fulfill. Finally, I'd like to thank my family. I'd like to especially thank my wife Tabitha for being my rock and taking care of me, taking care of the homestead while I took care of a small piece of the Air Force mission. It's been a long time. You've been there to support me from the beginning, the recruitment phase, all the way till now. I love you and thank you. The flowers never made it over. To my children that have sacrificed a lot, missed birthdays, all the sacrifices, missed programs, band concerts, football games, it hasn't gone unnoticed. I thank each and every one of you, and I love you all. As I stated before, it'll be 20 years, 4 months, 7 days since I stepped foot on Lackland Air Force Base, the gateway to the Air Force, start my journey to become a United States Air Force Airman and Security Forces Defender. Now, one thing that I remember going into the Air Force is that I was always told, don't volunteer for anything. Well, first thing in the reception line and going through the basic training line, they asked me to play instruments. I hesitated, but I'm like, I played trumpet for 9 years. They probably know that. It's hard to raise my hand. So I ended up raising my hand and got volunteered in the Drum Bugle Corps element, basic training. When we rolled up to the dorms that night at the 323rd Training Squadron, lo and behold, Chief Master Sergeant Clark, then Staff Sergeant Clark, was there to greet us, was there kindly waiting to receive us. Chief Clark was my lead MTI for my basic training flight. He was always willing to give us some kind, encouraging words or motivation in the front-leaning rest position. He did a phenomenal job turning me from a civilian to an airman in 6 weeks. Thank you again, Chief Clark, for instilling those core values that have carried me through my career. Fun fact, he did not know, or he chose not to use my name until about the 4th week of training right before we left for Beast Week. He always referred to me as Glasses. It's unique to not only keep in touch with your former MTI, but to work for them during your career, let alone have them attend your retirement ceremonies 20 years plus later. I've had a good career as a defender, let alone being able to retire as a defender. There are times that I never thought I'd be standing here today, but through perseverance and resilience, I stand here today. As Captain Bearbrier mentioned before, I was stationed in the frozen tundra of Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, where I had the privilege of guarding 2/3 of the nuclear triad. I was fortunate enough to deploy out of there to Bagram Airfield, where I got to see all the attractions of Afghanistan through flyway security missions. The big Air Force allowed me to PCS, then over to the oven known as Creech Air Force Base, where I split my time between being a ground combat training squadron as an integrated base defense instructor, teaching other defenders how to operate and deploy environments, and a flight sergeant on base side, protecting the remotely piloted aircraft enterprise. There again, I had the privilege of serving with Chief Clark. Then Global Strike decided to bring me back, and I PCS'd to F.E. Warren, where I got to work in the Windy Tri-State Missile Field Complex. Since I was outstanding in my field, I was afforded the opportunity to represent the SFG at the Wing Operations Center. Some of the best times I got to experience while serving here, learning small unit tactics with the Navy SEALs and the Army Special Forces. Trained side by side with the Canadians, Australians, and British forces. Trained hand in hand with Pararescue, JTAC, EOD, and the Marines. I think I forgot to mention standing in front of a fully alert B-52 in snow and negative-degree weather doing Global Thunder in Minot. No, I'm just kidding, that was terrible. So my advice to the younger generation of offenders, take every opportunity you can. All this wouldn't have been possible without the values instilled in basic training in tech school, the supervisors who saw the potential in me and pushed me out of my comfort zones, the peers who supported me, the leadership who guided me, and lastly, my family who stood by me. I'm proud to have won the beret for 20 years because that beret was earned, not given. Whether you're staying in for an enlistment or a career, take care of you, take care of your folks, and in turn, you'll take care of the mission. I'd like to leave today with a quote from Winston Churchill. Quote, all great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word. Freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. Close quote. It's never a goodbye, but see you later. And in true Defender fashion, I'll leave you with every Defender's favorite phrase. Cool.
This concludes today's ceremony. The men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served alongside Technical Sergeant Muffley and wish him success in his future endeavors. Please stand for the departure of the official party. The Muffley family invites everyone to stay for a small reception immediately following the ceremony. Thank you for attending and sharing this special day with them. Have a great afternoon.